starting at the very beginning, who has used the Docusign platform before?
I have.
Okay, great. So if you've used Docusign on the web before, then most of what we're going to do will be pretty familiar to you. It shouldn't be a problem at all. Yes, I guess that's the question: is have you used Docusign to make a contract rather than just to sign a contract? So a few less. Okay, so if you've used it though at all, you know Docusign is pretty intuitive, and the Docusign for Salesforce is no different. It is very intuitive. I have explained to people that there are a lot of complaints about CongaSign. One of which is that it's CongaSign, so people don't really know what that is. Docusign is the band-aid of signing online, so basically use that as the word to describe it, even if you're not actually talking about Docusign. But the transition over required a lot of front end work, and the goal is to make it much easier for you on the back end. And hopefully that is going to be the case. So what we'll do today is roll through what Docusign looks like and what you're going to have to do. There are a couple of extra steps that we are trying to get through. I'm working with Docusign in order to fix those things. But for right now, we're going to have to deal with things as they are, I guess, and just follow basically these guidelines to make sure that things go out correctly. If you weren't in our training about signature types, the OBO, the FSO, the minor child, or the regular signature, please do take time to review that or reach out to me and we can discuss the differences between the two, because they're going to be very key when it comes to which agreement do I want and which one is going to come out of the Docusign. So jumping right in, I have Salesforce open here. We can go to any opportunity. This is one for an old client that obviously has now since terminated. We're just doing this as part of a different project. So this client does not have the availability of Docusign. You won't see anywhere in here Docusign. And that's because, again, the front end work requires that the template has to be built out very specifically. And this is just, I did a pop distro opportunity for this. So this won't actually have the ability to do Docusign. We're going to have to find one that is either a distro CMA CPA agreement or a CMA CPA agreement. Those are the only two that are currently in Docusign. So if we go to opportunities, we could find one. This is not one. Let me find a. Am I not sharing the screen? I am not sharing the screen. My fault. Sorry, let me share the screen so you can actually see it. There we go. Hopefully that makes it easier for you guys to see what I'm talking about. All right, so just kind of back over it. I was on this agreement, but for those who have wondered about it, there is a field on all of the opportunities that's opportunity record type, and that tells you what kind of opportunity this is. This is a pop distro opportunity. But again, in the dropdown where I would normally see send with CongaSign, I still have CongaSign here, but I don't have Docusign. And that I actually have a lot more options than probably what you can see. But no Docusign, because this agreement can't be sent by Docusign. It has to be a distro CMA CPA or a CMA CPA. So I can go out here. Let's find JON, which is a distro CMA CPA. And now you can see that the view actually changed. And for those of you who haven't seen different kind of record types, that is actually kind of the core of it. This is what a pop distro opportunity looks like and how the information is presented. And if we go to a EDM distro CMA CPA, this is the view that you have. And you'll see that here we actually do have Docusign here. Again, I still have more things in the dropdown than most of you have, but send Docusign is the very first button. And you'll also see on the right-hand side, Docusign envelope status will be here as well. So this is, again, a nonsensical opportunity. It's not real. There are a couple of extra fields that I had to create in order to get Docusign to work. If you see these on your opportunities still, let me know. I need to go in and take those off of this view so that they're not there anymore. But we're here to talk about Docusign, so let's move through that. Let's pretend that this agreement is ready to go. We have everything in it that we need. Let's check and see. I have the initial term. I have the renewal term, the start date, contract type. Also, if people have wondered about the opportunity ID, that is where you'll find that in the field. You can also find it up here. You'll notice that those are the same numbers. The address, because it's distro, we want to have the address for the opportunity. This is not a field I can change because it's pulling directly from the account. So you put the address on the account and it comes into the opportunity. I have the project details here, which are going to be important for contracts moving forward. You have the options of putting none, or you can put a variety of release details, and then you have to fill out the fields matching those release details. Contract type split percent is there, and marketing advances in there as well. The distribution rights, all of these fields are already completed. And I am going to check the box that says include CPA and include CMA and make sure that, here's another thing I guess we can do, kind of a little primer on this as well. So you can include the CMA, the CPA, or not. If you leave these boxes unchecked, this is just a distro agreement. You can include a CMA without the CPA. You can include a CPA without the CMA just by checking or unchecking those boxes, or you can include both. If you do include those, the term of those agreements will be the same as the distro agreement unless you change that here. So if I wanted to make the distro agreement a year to year and a 6 month on the CMA, then I would just add 6 months here as opposed to the year that is up in the initial term length for the distro agreement. So distro terms are at the top. Those terms will apply to the CMA and the CPA unless you do something different specifically. Here, I can make it 6 months, but I'm going to leave it just the same so everything runs for a year. And I want to make sure that I put the split. So up here, we have the distro split. As soon as I can find it, at 80-20, but we're going to do 70-30 for the CMA. And I want to do 85-15 for the channel. I think I'm going to get an error here, actually. I did, which is good. Okay. And I need to check this. I don't have a YouTube channel in the account, but that's not going to be a problem. It's just going to be missing information. So from there, from the top down, you can ignore these boxes. They fill automatically, and they should be gone off of yours. But here we have the top stuff that I need to make sure I complete. Excuse me. Then I have the distro information here about the contract, the terms, the project details, the splits, including any advances, the distro specific information, whether or not it's going to include a CMA and CPA. And you'll note that because I checked both boxes, Exhibit A and B is checked, Exhibit A or B is checked. You may or may not see those boxes. It doesn't matter. They run in the background. The term for the CMA and the CPA are here as well. And we added an additional split. Now, if you are going to include FSO, you check this box and you need to make sure you put in the company name. We talked about that during the training yesterday. If it's going to be an OBO signer, you check the box here and you'll want to come up here and change the name that's in this box here. So that will put a different name on the contract. And if it's a minor child, you'll check this box here and you'll put in the state for the minor child. This one's already marked as signed because I've already run through this before. I'll just uncheck that box and then payment information is below. So I'm just going to save this as is. Oh, I left that checked. Whoops. Let me come back. So 1 sec. Yeah, go ahead, Nicole.
Quick question. Do you mind going back to the opportunity?
Mm-hmm.
So when somebody's signing OBO, you click obviously the OBO signer text box, go up, change the name. When you do that though, will it still include like the artist's legal name and professional name?
Yeah, so that it's going to take from the account, but you can change the contact name here for the signer, and you'll if the email address that you want to use, meaning down in the notice paragraph, you want to use a different email address, you can change that contact email here as well. So that is the OBO language. And obviously, if you leave it unchecked, none of that matters. It'll just pull the language from the contact here that's marked as is primary. So let me say that again and make sure it stays correctly. Hopefully I had everything right, and I do. So now I want to go to send Docusign. So I'm just going to hit the button, and all the processes will start to run. Just like Conga, it's got some of the stuff that runs in the background, creating the template. Unlike Conga, there's not two steps. There's not two separate steps. Everything should run together, so you don't have to formulate the contract and then download it, review it, re-upload it, do the two different steps. It's all done all together. You do have the option of downloading it, so I can look at it. In fact, I'll do that now, so we can just take a look. It's going to download. Oh, it's going to be in a Word format, which is not what I meant to do, but okay. So I can look through the document. Here's the name that was from that paragraph, my address from the account, the artist, and all the terms are there to 80%. The marketing advance is there, $500,000. And in the notice paragraph, it should be the email address that was there. It is that email address. So all of that stuff is just inserted. And you'll notice that if I go down further, there was no schedule, but if I'd filled out a schedule, that would come here as well. I'll go back and show you guys that as well. This is the content claiming. So because I checked the box for CMA, this is here. Now, if I had a different term for the CMA, like again, I made it 6 months instead of the year, a paragraph would pop up here that would say the term for the CMA portion of this agreement is 1 year. So that's what that space is for. And here for the CPA, you'll notice that the percentage here is different. It's 85 as I put down below. And let me find the CMA split is 70. Although it looks like there's a couple of things I have to fix there. So the percentages are putting in an extra percentage sign. But those percentages are different and they're set in the agreement based on those fields that we filled out before. So I'm going to go ahead and close this and we will go back to the call. I think I stopped sharing. Sorry about that. Okie doke. So I can download it and take a look at it that way. I can hit preview, and preview is going to open up that document within Salesforce itself. It does take a little bit of time. It'll say no preview available. For a Word document, it takes a lot of time. For a PDF, it's a little quicker. But I'm not going to sit here and wait for that to actually run because it can actually take 2 or 3 minutes to open. So we'll just go back, but you can see that you can view it even there in the inside of Salesforce. When you go back, it'll take you back to the screen here. And now I have 2 options. Well, 3 options. I can go back. That'll take me back to the opportunity. I can send for signature or send for review. And we talked about this a little bit, I think, yesterday. If not, it may have been a different call. I do a lot of calls about Docusign. And I want to go over both of the options here. One of which you're going to use a lot more. The send for signature you're going to use probably most of the time. Send for review is the new thing. And this is one of the reasons we went with Docusign in the first place. So there are two subheaders under send for review: external review and internal approval. If I select send for external review, I'm going to get this box that will pop up and say, who are we sending this to? And if I have entered the person, first of all, I would have to enter the person as a contact. But let's say that Cindy is the lawyer for this client, Dareal, Jon. So I'm going to search for Cindy. I'm going to find her name here, and I'm going to give a due date for her review. And let's say we'll make it next Friday. Now, when I hit next, I can make a different subject. I can change the message, and I can hit send. When I hit send on this, this is going to send a Word document attached to an email to Cindy. She can download it, or she can click a link and do modifications directly in the platform. Most people will choose to download the Word document. Once they, sorry, go ahead.
Did you send it to me?
I didn't, but I can. Sure. So it's invalid because you're a user. It has to be somebody outside the company. And I don't want to send it to anyone in particular. But so what the person would do is they can download the Word document. They can redline it as per usual. And then they can reply to that email, attach their red line, and send it. And when they send it, it will actually come back into Salesforce via Docusign. Docusign will compare the document you prepared against their red line and then show you what red lines there were. Now, this is important for a couple of reasons. Number one, we'd like to think everybody's honest and that they put track changes on and that we can track all the changes. But even if they're not, Docusign will find every single difference between the original document and what they've made changes to. And if If they don't use Redline, if they just make changes to the document, then it's even further better because obviously we can see what changes were made rather than just guessing at what changes were made. So instead of having them, like highlight stuff that needs to be changed, you can encourage them to actually just change the document, make the changes there, and then send it back. And that way we'll be able to do the comparison and see what has been changed. So once you get that return document, then stage 2 can start, which is usually, for most things, that it needs to be forwarded to Boyarsky's office and Alex Stoll's. So right now, they would also be an external reviewer. So I could just, once I have that new document, I can now send that new document, the red line, for external review. And I think I put Alex Stoll's in as a contact. I did. So now I can, let's theorize that it had been a few days. I got back Cindy's review. I can now send it to Alex for external review with a new due date of the next Friday and send it to him. And just like before, I can create a new subject. I create a new message, and he can also look at the edits there and either just approve them straight up or make new changes to the document and then send it back. Once those new changes are in, you, as the user on Salesforce, can then forward that new document back to their reviewer. And this is the negotiate portion of Docusign Gen and Negotiate, which is what the new product that we have. So it allows for negotiation to take place and all the changes to be tracked right in the document. Let's say that, there are some agreements that will go 6 or 8 versions, and someone wanted to say, well, I know we kind of had the better language of this 3 versions ago. Instead of tracking that down in an email or what document was it, you'll be able to actually look down through the steps, find that one, and then re-forward that one. And that becomes the new primary document. It also makes sure that there's only one primary at a time. So instead of having Alex work on a version, somebody else here work at a version, and the other lawyers work on a version, there's only one going around at a time. That one continually is updated and changes are tracked in it. Eventually, once I can do some training with them, internal approval will be Alex Stoll's. You'll be able to send it to him internally. Right now, internal approval can be any person who's in the company. Theoretically, I haven't set up Cindy for Gen and Negotiate yet. Max is set up for it. So I can now send this to Max, document for your approval, and hit send. And Max will get basically he gets an up-down. Yes, no. Is this document good or not? He can also make changes, but essentially he'll have to come back into Salesforce in order to make those changes. So I think Max is on the call with us.
Yeah, I just got the email. Do you want me to sort of hit review?
Yeah, just hit review. And actually, you know what? I'm going to stop presenting. If you can share that, and just so everybody can see what you see as the internal reviewer. And while he's doing that, I'll just say, I know that some of the teams, specifically folks I see on this call, Peter may be prepping contracts for Nadeem, Ashley may be prepping contracts for the POP team, or Dara maybe. And you can actually use this to share internally on the team. And that way, if it's a tricky contract, if it's something new and different, you can actually show them, this is what is prepared. Are we good on this, or do I need to change something else? So this is, again, it looks just like Docusign, as if you were a signer. And you can make changes, but you're going to have to go to Salesforce to do that. If this looks good to you as the internal reviewer, you just hit approve, and you can make comments, or you can just send a response. But before you do that, before you hit that, Max, go to the top right corner. There's a pencil there. Click down on the pencil. So you can actually, the notes and comments you put here, you can actually copy into Salesforce so that those notes are added to the opportunity. Obviously, this lets you download this document as well. And click the one right next to it, the arrow button. This would let you share it with somebody else. Now, we don't want to be using this to share to external people. Obviously, there's a process for that. But let's say that Ashley creates a contract and shares it with Dara, and Dara says, oh, I got these details from Cindy, so she's really the one who should review it. Dara can then share that link to Cindy to get final approval, and then she can come in and hit approve or reject with the notes and details. So go ahead and just hit send response. And I think you get a Docusign thank you screen. Yep. So everything's submitted, and it should take you out of Docusign. There you go. So it takes you to like an update screen. So I sent it for approval. You approved it. It's now approved. So I'm going to go ahead. If you want to stop sharing, Max, and I will share my screen now again. So coming back in here now, the Docusign envelope, why is it not? It should have been updated. I don't know why it didn't update. Okay, so I have to figure out why that didn't update. But nonetheless, going to send Docusign, it will now have the document attached to it, the one from before, obviously. And instead of send for review, we're going to send for signature. So this is where things can get tricky, or basically just you need to pay attention for this bit. So it's going to automatically grab that document that we sent for approval that came back reattached to Salesforce. But at this point, you can also, if you have downloaded it to make very specific changes, which should be very limited, you shouldn't be making changes on your own. Obviously, Alex Stoll should be making changes, possibly me, or lawyers from the other side through that negotiate process. Then you could upload a document from your desktop or from your computer here to make a replacement. If you wanted to send the agreement and also send the bank documents so that we can get the banking information, you can upload those documents here, or you can add them from Salesforce. I think it's just titled W9. I can't remember what I called them. Libraries, financial documents. I guess maybe they're not uploaded. All right. So they're not in the library, which might be why it's a problem. So once they're up there, you'd be able to attach the W9, the W8 Ben, W8 Benny, etc. if you wanted to add those in during this process and have them fill it out. But for right now, we're just going to keep the agreement, make sure the box is checked. So we're going to actually send this. Then we're going to go over to the recipients tab, or you can hit next, which also takes you to the recipients tab. Now, because I had 2 contacts on here, it added those contacts on automatically. You need to assure that that the roles here are correct, signer 1 and signer 2. Now, because I had 2 contacts, it made them signer 1 and signer 2, but the agreement is only going to have 1 signer for the other side. It's not going to have 2. In this case, this was just a manager that I added onto the account. So I want to make sure to come in here and to change this to receives a copy, and I hit select, and now they receive a copy. But you'll note the role did not change, and that is going to cause a problem. Because signer 1 is the person on the left, signer 2 is the person on the right in a traditional signing agreement. So instead, what you need to do is to make sure that the signer for them is on the left-hand side. So we've now left it. Now there's 1 signer, it's on the left-hand side. If this popped up and it said artist, if it said manager, if it said lawyer, if it doesn't say signer 1, then you need to delete them out and add people back in so that signer 1 is the first name here. And that's going to obviously be the signer for the artist. It just happens to be me in this case. I'm going to add a recipient, and I always have Richard sign contracts. So I'm going to add him here. This makes him signer 2. So now we have the signer for the artist and the signer for create. Now, I want to add in some people for CCs. So I'm going to go ahead and add some people in. Condi. I'm going to add Cindy in as a CC. Maybe it's not going to let me do that because you're a user. So how about needs to view? Nope, not going to let me do it at all. All right. Did I add you? I did. And we're going to make you receive a copy. There we go. So as long as it's not a user, it's only a problem if it's a user. So her contact record is perfectly fine. I'm going to add my sister back in, who is on that account, and make her CC as well. Receives a copy. And let's go ahead and add somebody else in. Max, are you in here as a contact? You are. And I'm going to make you specify recipient. So what specify recipient is that means if you know that the manager isn't the one who's signing, but they're going to be the one who knows who has to sign. They can be specify recipient, and they will send it on to the signer one. Let's see, let's go back and look at some of these roles. Needs to sign as a signer. In-person signer will just essentially get skipped, and the final document can then be printed for signing in person. Embedded signer, don't worry about that. We're not going to use that. Receives a copy as a CC. Needs to view is literally just, I'm going to send this to you first as a separate step so you can see it. You don't get to approve. You don't get to change. You're just seeing it. Once you get it and receive it and open it, then it goes for signature. This may be, I can't really imagine a use case where somebody would use it, but that's what it's there for. And then, of course, specify recipients is sending it out. I'm going to send it to you so you can tell me who signer one is going to be, and you can change signer one if you wanted to change it. Sorry, one sec. Let me just finish through the list here. And allow to edit. We don't use this because we have the negotiate side of Jenna Negotiate. So instead we would use negotiate for that. So I have him as specify recipients, but instead I'm going to use, just make him receives a copy. Let me go back to the call here. Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, if you have it on, like, does it need to be signer one if you have it on specify recipient? You know what I mean? Like, will I still, like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so you should still create a contact for the name of the person, and then they will basically specify, yes, this person is going to sign, or they can change it. But we need a placeholder for signer one. They are essentially telling us who is signer one. Is it correct, or does it need to be changed?
So you would send that to the manager who would specify the artist?
Yes. Yes. At least that's my understanding. We haven't run through that yet. Basically, it's it's not used as much for Docusign. So I haven't seen how it works in fact. If we want, we can run through some of those and actually see what they look like on the backside. But that's my understanding from Docusign.
Okay.
Yep. Cindy, question?
Yeah. First of all, I really like this. I'm glad we have a tracking system. I just had a few questions. So normally when someone asks for a draft, we send it over an email thread. So I noticed that at the end you have multiple recipients, but along the way, can you have multiple recipients, or if say Ashley draws the agreement and then she sends it to their team to Redline, but can you have multiple people so we're both all tracking it at the same time?
No. So you as a user can track it within Salesforce, but and obviously she'll be able to share you the link of the document so that you can share along, or you can just know, this account. This is where the Slack integration is really great, because she could use the opportunity and connect it to Slack. And anytime that DocuSign gets updated, you'll get a notification in a channel to say this opportunity, DocuSign updated, and then you'll know to go and check it. But DocuSign wants to have only one active document at a time. So that means only one recipient, because we don't want two people on their team to make different changes and then send it. If they both change the same thing in a different way, it doesn't know how to say this person is actually the one we should listen to. So we would send it to one person. And then if there are somebody else who actually has to approve, you basically take it back into Salesforce. It compares it, creates the new red line, and then you could resend it out externally again to someone else on their team for them to look over. They may say, you know what, we don't need to change this back, change that back. And then we get it back, we'll get a new red line. DocuSign will make a new comparison, make a new red line, which you can then send to Alex Stoles, or we can just push through if it's something that doesn't need to be reviewed by him.
Got it. So just so that sometimes there's just multiple people that want to track. So, or we'll just pick out one person on their side where we send this external separate email to, and then we can just have that share link in our normal thread, just so that everyone can check it out.
Yeah, and I mean, there's not really a lot of need for people to track the review process. When we're talking about the signing process, then obviously using a CC is an easy way to track the steps of a signing process. But the review process is really just more usually an attorney sometimes a manager. So it's kind of in the hands of the person. And by setting the due date, you're essentially telling them you have until this date or it's withdrawn, and then I'd have to resend it. So I would highly advise sending very short due dates. And then if it does come back, you can resend it to the person, but it essentially lets you know, I need to get in touch with somebody because we sent it, they had a week, they didn't do anything with it. So I'm going to resend it, but I'm also going to reach out and say, hey, why didn't your guy review it?
Yeah, it's mostly so that everyone is. I mean, I don't really care about the small detailed changes, but it's just to track like overall like larger changes, like splits and things like that, so both sides like are like understand the difference. So that's why I wanted to make clear that we can still use that link for everyone if multiple people just want to check out the agreement.
Yes, yeah, and basically what they won't see the changes that are being made currently, but they will see this is the most recent version of the agreement. So when your guy sends me back a copy, it'll update and you'll have a link that will show you the updates. It just doesn't show you what he's doing right now.
Okay, and then next question. So when we get the agreement back, then usually I send it to Alex, and then we discuss separately regarding red lines. So is he going to make notes in that in the Docusign itself, or is he still going to converse with us separately?
So part of this process is going to be to get Alex on Salesforce in so much as the negotiate portion of it. And that way we can actually use Chatter because that Docusign integration is in Salesforce. He'd be able to just shoot you a quick message in Chatter about those things and be able to like converse as if it was Slack or email while he's making changes. Also, Docusign has this intuitive thing that's running in the background. And if one change is always requested, Alex can actually put it on a list of it. This is always okay. And then that doesn't even need to go to him. It'll just automatically say, all right, this is on our list of approved changes, so we're going to allow it. And then it doesn't go for further review.
Okay, so ultimately, eventually, we want him to have everything in Chatter, but for now, since we're just doing DocuSign, he still might reach out to us separately before we make any changes.
Yeah.
And it'll go back to the artist.
And realistically, he could forward the email he receives from Docusign or from Salesforce to you guys and create a thread around that. And then when he replies to the first email, it will update in Salesforce.
Okay.
So basically, when he gets that email that Max just got, he could forward that email, and then that creates a thread about the document that we're talking about. And you guys can converse in that thread if you prefer email. Until he's on the platform.
Okay. All right. I think that's all I have.
Okay. So again, now we have all of these signers. Again, signer 1 and signer 2 are the only important ones. And the role is important, not the position. So I have by default signing order checked. If I uncheck it, then it's going to go out in this order all at once. Everybody's going to get their documents. We don't want that to happen necessarily. So we want to make sure signing order is checked. Now for this, Cindy wants to only know when the final document gets signed. She doesn't care about all the steps in between. So I'm going to leave her where she is. The manager for the other side wants to know every step of the way where it is. So I've now bumped up the manager for the artist to the very top. You'll see 1 and 1 here. But the signer role didn't change. Artist is still signer 1. Our guy is still signer 2. Max also wants to know at every step of the way where we are. So Max gets bumped up as well. And again, his role didn't change. The signer didn't change. Everything is still the same. But I do want to make sure that this signing order reflects correctly. So, and actually, it's a little easier just to change the numbers because stuff starts to move around on you. 4, and then Cindy would be 5. So you can drag and drop, but with the roles being different and the types being different, you can see how when I just shifted it, it didn't work exactly correctly. If you do the numbers, then it moves everything into correct order. The manager's going to get a copy, Max is going to get a copy, and they'll know every step of the way what gets updated. Then it'll go to the artist to sign. Once the artist signs, then it'll go to Richard to sign. And after Richard signs, everybody will get an update, including Cindy. she gets an update that the final signature is there. You can change the email subject. You can add a message if you'd like. And I highly recommend you put on auto reminders, either every 3 days, every week, but this will send an email to them saying, hey, don't forget, I have something I need you to sign. You could have it do it every day if you'd like. That is just an easy way for it to automatically follow up as a reminder. Go sign this thing, go sign this thing. And hopefully we won't have what we had before, which is just contracts that never got signed. They got sent and never followed up on. You can also set an expiration date. Generally speaking, I default to 60 days, as if you don't sign it within 60 days, we're going to have to come back and redo this contract. Basically only because of the start date, it gets complicated after 60 days. 30 days is actually even better. And you can see that the date is updating by itself. If I change this and I want to make the 19th a date, it updates the number of days as well. So basically we have all of these things that are helping us track where something is. Reminders, you won't get the reminder, only the signer will. Richard might get a reminder if he doesn't sign it on the first day. If you have it set for every 3 days, he'll get a copy. 3 days after he gets it, he'll get a reminder to go sign it. But so will the artist. Anybody who's a signer will. And setting an expiration date makes sure that if it's out for longer than a certain amount of time, that it's just voided and we have to follow up. You'll get a notification that it got voided and we need to send another one. That'll also let you update the date at the top of a contract, which really should be close to the time of signing. So I'm going to set this for 30 days. Date changes automatically. I'm going to set the reminder for every 3 days. So it'll send them a follow-up link. I can change this to sign, please. Obviously, it says documents for your Docusign. Docusign signature needed. So now I have all of this set. Is anybody in here external? No. Okay. So I can now view. This is going to show you the diagram of how the order is going to go. I'm going to send it. Then the manager's going to get it. Then Max is going to get it. Then the first signer. Then the second signer. Then Cindy's going to get it. If I uncheck signing order and I hit view, I'm going to send it. Everybody's going to get it at the same time. And then it's going to get completed. You'll notice if I recheck this and I just say, you know what, 1, I'm going to make them 2, and then 3, and then 4, and I view. This is how it's going to go out. These two are going to get it at the same time. Then the signer's going to get it. Then our signer. Then Cindy's going to get it. And if Cindy just wants to know when it got sent to Richard so she can get on his case to make sure he signs it, now the 2 CCs are getting it. And again, they'll be updated at every step of the way. Then the artist signs it. And then when it gets sent to Richard, Cindy also gets it. And then it's marked completed. So this diagram allows you to see how you've structured it and make sure that it matches what you think you're sending. I'm going to go ahead back and change this back to just the standard 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, straight line. Anyone who's a CC above or a signer above will get a notification once the step below is taken care of. And one thing I noticed here, Cindy's 4, she's before Richard. That's not what I wanted. I want Cindy to get it after Richard signs, so I can go ahead and change that. Now I see that that's correct. It's a good review tool. I have all my recipients. I know the document's good. I've checked the email. I put the reminder. I've put the expiration. So now I'm going to move on to prepare and send. I also could have clicked next up here, or I can click back and go back to the previous steps. This is going to open up Docusign probably if you've made contracts before, the way that you're familiar with. There's the document. It looks just like Docusign, but you can see at the top, I'm still within the Salesforce architecture and I'm still on a Salesforce page. But if I scroll down, and I do need to add the initial pages. We were having a problem with the initials, but I can see there's an issue here. So where is signer 1? Because I see Richards, but I do not see. So in the case that something like this happens, I can go ahead and just drag and drop those bubbles in. And now it's ready for signature. And I don't think there's anything else. It's just initials, which are not in yet because we were having an issue with them. But yeah, so this allows you to add bubbles for either one. Let's say your contract had something special and you wanted to put a note on something. There you go. It's going to put a note on it. Obviously, you wouldn't want to put a note there because it'll be over the text, but you can put it there if you want. If something you have has a checkbox, we have an option for that. If you want to add the company or a title, obviously, eventually the initial will pop up down here as well for people to sign. Once I confirm all the bubbles are there, everything's ready to go, signers 1 and 2, you'll note that no one else is mentioned here because nobody else is a signer. So I'm going to go back to edit recipients. This lets me pop up and see, what have I done here? Is this what I wanted to do? Yes. Needs to sign. You can add a code so that you can make sure that only this person will sign it by giving them a private code. You can include a personal message so that only at that step is there a message in the email. So the email might say, something very pleasant, and then you can add a private message with whatever you'd like in there as well. And that's for every step. Like you could send Richard a message that says, "You better sign this quick, or else." Any step of the way, you can have an access code or a private message. You can change the email address if you want to confirm the email address. You can actually change the signer if something changes. All that can be done right here at this screen. So I'm done. Everything here, again, is pretty standard as to Docusign if you've used it before. This is just basically how you're going to look at it. Recipient preview lets you see what the person's going to see when they click on the link. Very similar to, again, if you've ever signed a Docusign, I'm going to see that Richard is going to have that one initial, because that's the only one I dropped in, and then signing here, or I'm sorry, the artist, me, is going to have my name automatically put out here and the date automatically put here, and then I just have to click to sign. If I go back, or just close that out, I can change over to Richard, and now I'll see what Richard sees. And he doesn't have the initial, because there's no initial there for him, but if I go all the way down, I will see his name filled out, and the date, and click to sign. And of course, you can look at it on tablet, you can look at it on mobile, just to make sure the document looks the way that you intend it to look. Again, here on a phone, this is what it's going to look like. It's pretty small, but he's able to just click to sign. And when I'm ready, I can hit send. That will send it out. I won't waste everybody's email time by doing that. I can take actions of editing any of the steps we've already talked about. I can discard. I can save and close it. And in fact, you know what? I am going to send it. So everybody, apologies on the emails. You can delete them, because I want to show you that once you hit send, it brings you back to the opportunity, and you'll see envelope status is here. And I think I got it. So hang on one sec. Let me go to my email, and here we go. Let me grab this and pull this out. So I don't want you to see the embarrassing number of tabs that I have open, but I will throw this tab in and get back to the call. Sorry. Okay. So you can see I had an email, Docusign signature needed. I changed the message to say sign please. There it is. And I had changed the subject. Both of those are changed. Sorry about that. I click review document. And I want to, I don't know why it needs to know my location. But I agree. Yes, I'm going to continue and sign this document. I'm going to click initial to add my initial. It lets you do the selecting, or you can draw. I thought it let you, oh, here we go. Change style, so you can change how it looks. This is actually the one that I use. So I'm going to adopt that, and then it drops me down here. I click that sign. That looks like everything I need to do. I can print, I can void, I can correct. Correction doesn't actually allow you to correct, though. It allows you to make a note and send it back. It's not like the negotiate portion of it. It's only notations. But now that I've signed it, I can finish. And I should get a copy of it. So if I go back to the opportunity and I hit refresh, you'll see in the envelope status, it may take a minute or two to update. So give it 1 second. Nonetheless, it updates the status with the most recent step here. Obviously, it may take a minute or two. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Oh, here's another great one. So from right here, you can actually void the contract if you want to resend a different one. If you didn't set a reminder, if you want to set a separate reminder, you can always send a reminder there. But eventually, it should update the status. Apparently not yet, though. So we'll just let that go. It'll update the status to say that I signed it and that it had been sent to Richard for signature after that. So that allows you to track it right here. Again, I think this still has the... Nope, I took it off. The... Oh, here it is, Slack. So if I wanted to, I could connect this opportunity to a channel, even just temporarily. And anytime there's an update on this opportunity, it'll send it to that Slack channel. So it would send an update saying Docusign updated and draw your attention to this particular opportunity and say, hey, you need to come check this out. So is there any questions about that, where we are on Docusign? Yes, it's something that can be in the view, but doesn't have to be. So if you want to have Slack, it's easy to put Slack in on your page view.
No, I mean just like that Docusign.
Oh yeah, no, you won't have it because until you get Docusign, you can't see it.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, but the Docusign status will be there once you have access to Doc. You also won't see Send Docusign here. But once you see Send Docusign, then you should be able to see this envelope status as well. I was gonna say maybe I need to close it. I'm trying to figure out what might be the trigger. It might just take a minute because I'm sending it directly from Salesforce. It's easy to update this, and it may just take a minute to update the signature. But anyway, any other questions?
It does go to spam potentially when you send it out.
Yes. So essentially the email that it's coming from, here I will see, is me via Docusign, but it's this Docusign email address. So a lot of people who use Docusign will have put Docusign on their like no spam list. So it won't matter. And anything that comes from Docusign will go into the inbox. But it is possible that it may go into their spam box because it says it's from me, but it's actually not from me. And because it says via a something, those are all spam indicators. I have Docusign on my safe list, so obviously it went straight to my inbox. And you'll also see here, if they reply to this message, it will come to me because I'm the sender of that email.
That was my next question. If they ended up replying to it, it'll come directly.
Yep. Well, it'll come to the person who sent it. So whatever user, I know, Peter, you have your own account now, but for those people who may log in on someone else's, when Peter was using Nadim's, it would actually go to Nadim, obviously, because that was his Salesforce account, but it goes to your Salesforce email. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? I assume Cindy's hand is just still up from being up before.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, so I mean, that's basically it. As I said, it's pretty intuitive and it's pretty easy to use, just following the steps. The only thing that is a little tricky is the signers, making sure that the very first person, their signer, is signer 1, that the role is correct. Otherwise, delete it out and make sure that they are signer 1. Making sure that our signer is signer 2. Now, if we are using FSO or OBO, FSO or minor child, then the signer of the agreement would be signer 1. The second signer would be signer 2, and our signer would be signer 3. So essentially that means that in the FSO, whoever signing for the corporation would be signer 1. The artists themselves would be signer 2. And then whoever signs for us would be signer 3. For a minor child contract, the child would be 1, the parent would be 2, and we would be 3. But that's the only difference, is just making sure that if you have additional signers, the signers will be there, and it'll change obviously the signature block will change based on the template, depending on what you've selected and how many signers you need. I know I mentioned to Dara before, there is a possibility of adding up to 4 signers for them and then one for us, I think. So if the situation arises enough that it's necessary, I can upload a template for, bands or duos where it's 2 signers for them and 1 for us, just a regular signature with those 3, 4, those kind of things. So let me know if that is something that happens regularly enough that we need to add it in. Otherwise, you can download that Microsoft Works document, edit it to add in the extra signature lines, re-upload it in that first stage of DocuSign, and then just add the bubbles, add the recipients and add the bubbles yourself. Not all this rigmarole of that Conga made us go through. So it's a lot easier to use in that way. Any final things, thoughts, questions? Is anything not clear based on what we've gone through? Okay.